Welcome to the Awecast, where we dive deep into what makes you truly awesome. I'm your host, Dorchester Koning, founder of Awe Academy. In every episode, we explore the power of awe, not just as a feeling, but as a tool that transforms how we learn, grow, lead, live, and love. As each guest shares what sparks their curiosity and how they work with wonder, we connect with a deeper sense of awe. So, take a breath and get ready for some interpersonal magic. Welcome to the Awecast. Hello, Alain.
Hi, Dorcas. Nice seeing you.
Nice seeing you on the Awecast. This is the magic of the Awecast. I love it when conversations just naturally unfold. I will give you a brief introduction. Alain Thijs, you try to make transformation real for people in organizations and teams, and you really search for human flourishing. That's what drives you. And you're also a truth-seeking person.
Yep.
And in doing so, you developed transformation architects, but we will talk more about how truth-seeking has anything to do with that, and also how awe, your sense of awe, has something to do with what you chose to do in your life.
Look forward to it.
All right. So to kick off, I'd like to ask you, what does awe actually mean to you?
What does awe mean to me? I think it's kind of a gift you occasionally get, usually in an unexpected moment. It's kind of like it's because for me, I mean, awe is by definition very hard to define for me, because it's like it's something overwhelming that comes over you and just makes you feel that there's something bigger than yourself. It suddenly gives you a position in the world, the universe, life, whatever you want to call it, but in a good way. You know, you've got this, you've got this sometimes you feel like, oh, I feel insignificant. Yeah, that may be part of it, but actually it's like, oh, wow, this is like a wonderful moment. But it's kind of like, for me, it's usually almost accidental every time. So that's why I call it it's like a surprising gift. That's kind of, does that make sense?
It does. And I love the way you say it's accidental, like you're not looking for a moment of awe, but it kind of overcomes you.
Yeah. And I mean, you can open yourself up to it. I have learned that along the way, is that by trying multiple different things, meeting different people, putting yourself into unusual situations, you can maximize the chances that it happens, so to say.
Yeah.
But it's still, even, you can then try very hard and nothing happens. Yeah. And then you don't try and suddenly you're like staring at a wonderful sunset or seeing somebody do something really nice or whatever it may be.
Yeah. So can you tell me something about a moment of awe or a few moments of awe that really changed the way you look at life, or the decisions you may have made at some pivotal moments in your life?
Oh, okay, that's deep.
Big question. Yeah, we dive straight in. This is no chit chat.
I think probably the deepest moment of awe in that sense happened to me in Japan, when I was in Kanazawa, which is a small town on the opposite side of Tokyo. And there's a museum there called the D.T. Suzuki Museum, which is a museum for a philosopher, where I basically just wanted to go because it was like, I always vibed with his philosophy and things like that. But what I didn't realize is that the building was actually the expression of his philosophy. And because of circumstances, my wife and son couldn't join me immediately. So I walked through it alone. I was actually the only person in that museum. Wow. And now D.T. Suzuki is a Zen philosopher. So basically, it's all about being Zen. And that building was designed within his philosophy. And at one moment, I was just sitting there in one of the rooms. There was nothing there. And for the first time in my life, I experienced nothingness. Like that there was literally nothing. Everything fell away. Now, I've got an autistic streak, so I'll always get too many impulses and stuff like that. And actually, that was a moment that I mean, I cried. It was so overwhelming because everything fell away. Everything was quiet. But I also learned and this is kind of like that moment was not accidental. Yes, for me it was accidental, but it was designed.
Yes.
It was designed to a very high degree. And what it taught me is that effectively you can, well, you can't plan for awe, you can design for it, and you can design for emotion.
Yes.
And you can express that. And in a way, I mean, did it profoundly change me? Yes, in a way that I now know that absolute nothing is possible. I didn't know that
yes.
before.
Yeah.
That's which is, you know, is a lesson.
It's a
But
deep
also,
insight, I would say, that nothingness is possible.
yeah, I mean,
the way we
it
are
was
built.
only, and it was only for like probably about, I mean, for me, it felt like much longer, but probably it's like 15 seconds or something like that. But also that you can kind of design for those elements, which has been helpful to me in designing my own environment.
Right.
But also just like, you know, work-wise and just looking at situations, you know, yes, you can actually design for much more than anything I'd ever been taught, even nothing.
Yeah. Amazing. And how long ago was this?
This was, I think, about 4 or 5 years ago.
And then leading up to that, I imagine you don't end up in a museum like that for no reason. There's an interest in philosophy, I sense, and there's an interest in maybe the Japanese way of being. Could you share a little bit more about your awe and wonder in that?
I've always been, because of my work, I've always been quite regularly in touch with Japanese people, like Japanese clients and stuff like that. And basically, I've come to, just like any other society, it's got pluses and minuses. But I've come to learn that there is a very deep sense of craft, responsibility, community, elements which I'd say we've long lost here in the West, but which are still there, looking after each other. It's all very little things. I mean, if we're talking about, oh, it's not the big, oh, something just happened, but it's the little things like, you know, the taxi driver who makes you an origami bird because he likes you. And then just says, "Here's a gift."
That's sweet.
And there's no win for him at all.
Yeah.
It's just like, I just like you and I make you this. And having that happen, and this is over years, but basically having that happen on a regular basis, you know, where people are just good old-fashioned kind to each other.
Yeah.
In a way we've lost. That kind of attracted me to it. Yeah. I mean, as I say, there's as many negatives as positives, like in any other society.
Yeah.
But, you know, this sense of community, this sense of deep thought, this sense of intention in doing things. You don't just, I mean, this is what the clients I worked with is, you don't just fold a piece of paper.
Yeah.
You fold a piece of paper with intention in this particular way.
Yes, exactly.
And that's the company rule.
Yeah.
If you fold it differently, you've done it wrong.
Yes. And you will be punished.
No. You will be reminded that there is a correct way.
Okay.
It's another way of doing it, because you don't get that punished. It's like, you know, because you've let somebody else down, so you punish yourself enough.
That's actually, that's such a different way of looking at it. Yeah.
It's like, so it's also much more constructive. Because it is like, yes, there's lots of rules, much more than we've got, but at the same time, it's like there's a desire to help you.
Yes.
Like to help you be better, even in school. You know, it's like, you know, if here a kid doesn't know how to jump over something or what, everybody starts laughing.
Yeah.
Over there, the other kids start cheering him on and saying, okay, this is how you could do it, or this is how you could try it.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Like a much more supportive,
it's a much more
way
supportive
of learning something.
Exactly. And that's kind of like why I've always, I mean, I've always been there on business. So on this trip, we kind of went as a family and took a month and
Beautiful.
explored Japan.
Yeah. And have you always been traveling as a young person as well? Did your parents travel? How did you kind of learn to explore the world? as you do?
My parents didn't really travel much. I come
Mm.
from basically the traditional Belgian kind of like workman background. So
Hmm.
for us, traveling was going to the seaside or
Yes.
like crossing the border occasionally to Germany.
Hmm.
Um, but I think it kind of started, I guess, during my student days when I kind of started jumping out with an international school
Hmm.
organization. And then, yeah, literally the day I graduated, I was on the train to London.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
so I don't know whether that says something about me wanting to leave the country or whether it was a sense of adventure. But after that, I've actually always been getting jobs which were international.
Mm.
I've only worked in my life 2 years in a country environment, and the rest has always been international.
Mm.
So I've always been on planes and trains and
Yeah.
hotels and stuff like that. Not always for the better, but
Hmm.
it's kind of a way of life,
Yeah.
which I've now toned down a bit, but it's always been there.
And in your work, have you always been thinking about designing human flourishing, or did this grow over time as well? How did that work?
It's in my heart, I've always been thinking about it. In
Mhm.
my work, no.
Okay.
In the sense that I think I've always been somebody who likes to make life better for other people,
Mm.
one way or another.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a caretaker,
Hmm.
but I just like to, if I can make life better, so much the better.
Yeah.
Um, in my corporate life, it's all been, I mean, I was literally known as Mr. Show Me the Money. That was the, as Alan, better get the money out because
Yeah.
this is how he works. I even had like speeches where I got like, show me the money and all that sort of thing. Uh, Only then I kind of started getting a bit of a disconnect
Mm.
in my own thinking, where I was like, yeah, okay, so I've probably sold more of a certain insurance or a certain car brand than anybody else in the world.
Hmm.
But what's the point? Kind of
Yeah.
like this is kind of like where I got. This is about, I think, about 7, 8 years ago.
Hmm.
And I kind of found myself at this crossroads where I said, like, okay, I got to be commercial because I got to make a living,
Hmm.
but at the same time, I want to make a difference.
Yeah.
How do I reconcile these two things?
Hmm.
And I remember being in New York, to be precise, on the corner of 5th and 23rd, 11 o'clock at night, where I kind of went like, I want to do this differently.
Hmm.
I just had some experiences which made me think about all these things. And I was like, I want to solve real problems for real humans,
Hmm.
not just sell more stuff.
Yeah.
If that's problem solving, the real problems, not the, oh, my shirt is losing the color or
Hmm.
whatever, but like
Yeah.
real things,
Like actual problems.
actual
Yeah.
problems,
Yeah.
like making people happier, making them, suffer less or
Hmm.
whatever it may be.
Hmm.
And if then the money is a consequence, then I'm not going to say no.
Yeah.
But, how do I reframe that? And that's been kind of a journey where I went like, okay, how do I do that?
Hmm.
It's been a long learning curve,
Hmm.
but where I now ended up in saying, okay, I like, I, I want to basically create commercial opportunities because that's what I do for a business,
Yeah.
but I want to do it by enriching human lives.
Yes.
So it's, or actually by enriching lives because it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be human.
All right.
Um,
Also the non-human lives.
also non-human lives, because
Right.
basically if we have human flourishing at the expense of the planet or at the expense of whatever,
Yeah.
then yeah, are we really flourishing?
Yeah.
uh,
Good question.
so so it's like, how do you balance these things? And this is kind of where I ended up. So you're talking me at the end of quite a bit of a journey, but
Yeah. Can you share a little bit more about the personal, as insofar as you want to share this publicly? What were moments for you that really struck you into thinking about this kind of stuff? Because usually it takes either a burnout, a divorce, a parent that dies, quite pretty strong emotional things that kind of give you this slap in the face, and you realize, wait, I'm not in the right point. I'm not doing the stuff that really matters, and I want to make a change, a transformation. So what happened for you that you would like to share?
Yeah, I'll share a few things, not everything, but I'd say burnout. If I'd have to pick one, that would be the one. I'd had a quite successful consultancy company, which was growing, and I mean, global projects, all the usual stuff, superstar.
Did you also feel like quite the man?
At some point, yes, and then basically not anymore. Because on the one hand, at the time I told myself it was because I wasn't challenged anymore, because the last project we did was over 120 countries. So, where I'm going to go after this, United Nations, ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then it was actually because I was feeling, I was proud of the work we were doing, but I wasn't feeling like, is this really making a difference? And is this really living what I want to do? Because I was doing a lot of what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
I was living a lot of, this is how a successful guru type person walks around and runs a team and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, that wasn't me.
Right. So you were trying to be a guru leader, sort of.
I was kind of forced into that position because that's what the market expected and that's what the team expected, etc. And that was starting to grate. I was getting very tired. I wanted to get out of my business, etc., etc. And that's kind of where that whole thing started, in the sense of like, okay, if this is not it, then what?
Yeah.
And I didn't have an answer then. So it's like, it's been kind of gradual.
Yeah. And then where did you start searching for, of course, with burnout, you end up usually at home feeling completely depleted and you don't really want to get up. You don't want to go out. You don't want to socialize. So where do you go then to find points of, I guess, the way up?
I think it's one of those. I mean, everybody's got different ways of reacting to things, but at one point, I just booked myself. That was the year before I had my epiphany on the corner of 6th and 23rd. I booked myself to a conference in New York, which was completely out of my field. So I went to the future of storytelling.
All right.
Which me, Mr. Corporate, never really into suits, but basically that was the only element that was not corporate about me. Ending up in a world full of food designers, neuroscientists, theater makers, immersive people, clowns, Alice in Wonderland.
The weirder, the better.
And literally not knowing what I was getting myself into. But effectively being exposed, and that was actually part of that journey, being exposed to a reality which was totally different than mine. And discovering by accident that I liked it. Because there was this parallel universe which I'd never stepped into. I went there basically as a little, like, I'm going to give myself a little gift because I like stories, so I'm going to go to that conference. But actually what I found was a whole world of people who effectively did the same thing as what I talked about, only knew a lot more about the topic in different ways. They used different language and also achieved much more. And that was kind of, for me, an interesting, both a mirror and an inspiration, I think, to kind of answer your question, in the sense that what I discovered is that I was using a lot of the right words in my customer and corporate language, but these groups never really used corporate language, but they knew a lot more. And I love that idea because it was, for me, great, because I felt like a kid in a candy store with lots of people who were much smarter than me. So there was lots to learn. And that's kind of where it started, in the sense that I wanted to meet more of them. And that's actually the journey I've been on. I've just been meeting more and more people in more and more different ways, and just absorbing and learning and making friends along the way.
And then how did the transformation architects, where did that happen, and how did that come into being?
It emerged from that, in the sense that along the way I met, as I said, a lot of people, and I gradually started connecting with a number of them over values. I mean, it's a big word. I mean, basically it meant like we sit across the table from each other with a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, and we're violently agreeing about how the world should be.
Yeah.
But yeah, that comes down to values in the end, and worldviews.
Yeah. What do we want to stand for? What do we want the future
What do we
to look
stand
like?
for? What do we believe? Where do we, you know, how should the world work?
Yeah.
But not because we say this is what good looks like, but more like because that's where people want to go. And effectively it became one of those crazy ideas. And I think a first person to join was Catherine Templer Lewis. She's a neuroscientist, dear friend of mine. But well, we kind of said, well, you know, what if we started intervening where business and human life are out of sync? Yeah. And what if we started fixing those problems? Nowadays, I wouldn't call it fixing problems anymore, because back then we were like still like, you know, very like, oh, we know, and we're going to fix this. But
you were still guruing.
I was still, you know, I was like, don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
But the idea was, if you look at society, there is a lot of things where life and what humans need are out of sync. If I say, I mean, we've been doing a lot of work in death care, so farewells.
Yeah.
You know, the average McFuneral is not what humans seek.
Yeah.
If you look at elderly care, if you look at schooling, if you look at the way work works, I mean, I just have to say these things and you already know what's wrong. I don't even need to give you subtitles.
Yeah.
And the thing is that everybody knows it's wrong, but nobody's working on it. Nobody's designing for what is right. We're all trying to fix these little problems and make what exists better.
Yes.
But by fixing the wrongs, you don't necessarily create the right. Yeah, you're just making it less wrong.
Right.
So the idea behind the transformation architects, and this is kind of the collective kind of grew organically with more people joining into that group, is like, how can we design what's right? How can we create environments that, okay, may still have a commercial component, but deliver what humans really seek? And that's kind of how the transformation architects came together. Very similar mindsets, very complementary skills, and a desire to, maybe we only work on a project a year or whatever it is, so be it. But it's going to matter. It's going to be something where people go like, yeah, you're really doing something worthwhile.
Yes. And then for yourselves as well, working on that together creates a sense of purpose and connection between you and the people working in the team. So for yourself, I imagine it also had an element of transformation or growth.
Oh yeah.
Development.
It's I mean, it's so cool in the sense that, you know, it's an all-star team. So every conversation I learn, every conversation, there's something I walk away with that I feel a bit smarter than I was before.
Oh, that's
you know,
great.
and also realizing how little I know compared to them.
Isn't it so cool though that the older you get, the less you know? I kind of feel
I mean,
that for myself.
I'm getting more and more stupid every year.
Yeah.
It's my mission. But effectively, yeah, and it is actually quite transformational in the sense that because you're exposed, and I've heard this from other team members as well, maybe not in the word transformational, but more like, you know, because you're exposed to very high levels of thinking in a variety of areas of expertise, because we range from neuroscience to anthropology to AI to, you know, Joe Pine with, you know, transformation economy and all these things together. Because being exposed to that basically expands your perception of what's real, what's possible.
Yes.
which is the essence of transformation.
Right.
The moment your perception starts expanding,
Yeah.
you start changing.
Yeah.
And for me, it's been amazing to do that in a zero ego group, because it's the lowest ego team I've ever worked in.
Wow.
Which makes it also fun, because in a way you're just always learning from each other and learning from the projects.
Yes.
Because as I mentioned, the death care project, we all became different people because of that.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about that. I noticed in one of your LinkedIn posts that the McFuneral phrase, which I really love, like nobody wants that, but then how do we transform the funeral experience into something that is meaningful? How did you design for this?
It's not finished, the design, because it's hopefully will go live in 2029.
So it's a product, or how should I see this?
It's basically a new crematorium we're building from scratch.
An actual space as well?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's a full crematorium, which is designed from the ground up, and focuses on what humans need. So it's not about the traditional, what do we need? We need like rows of seats and, lots of concrete or whatever it may be, and a coffee table and all the usual stuff. Yes, those elements will be functionally need to be present.
Yeah.
But the design has been, and this is actually where it's been a gift to work with the CEO who's in charge of this, to design from experience out. So we've actually first started by looking at what do humans really need from a farewell.
Yeah.
And there's a number of things that we need as humans. We want some joint storytelling. We want to come together as a community. We want to say whatever's on our mind, even if it is like you were an asshole, that's fine. Whatever it is, it's a finite number of things. And if you then look at how a regular funeral is organized, it doesn't allow for these things very often. Community means coming together. So let's put everybody in cold rows next to each other, not looking at each other. Understanding and empathy. Let's take the most grieving person and put them behind a microphone and now expect them to make a speech without crying and breaking down. And please don't break down if you're sitting in the audience. I mean, not more than a sniffle, because
swallow your tears. Come on,
swallow your tears and all these things. And then off to the coffee table and then on to the parking garage.
And the begrafenis cake, the funeral cake, vanilla.
And the funeral cake, lousy coffee on top of that, and crappy music and all these things. We all know them. Now they exist because the industry has been optimized for certain KPIs. Measurement systems, which are like, okay, you make more money from a certain type of funeral than another, so let's start selling that, let's standardize that, let's make sure people are out of here in 45 minutes. That's how the machinery works. So what we did was actually say, let's forget about that whole machinery, and then say, if humans seek these elements, what do we need to provide at different steps of that journey? We cannot take away grief. That's not the point, even, because we need grief in our life. But what we can do is take away complicated grief, or at least reduce it, unnecessary suffering. That we can address. And so what we did is we basically said, so then from this need, what is the experience that is required that resonates with humans? Forgetting about buildings, forgetting about structures, forgetting about everything. Which led us to 3 scenarios, which we've worked out. And they actually now, with the 3 of those, we resonate with 100% of the population. Every human wants one of these 3 variables, so to say. And then we started working out, okay, now what is needed to make those experiences real? We started designing that and working through that, and which in the end is now turning into a building, is going to turn into a bunch of experience scripts and all these elements. So it goes in multiple directions.
So what if suddenly everybody wants to have their funeral, their loved ones buried or cremated there? Then you'll be too busy and you'll have to shorten the amount of time per person.
No, because this goes much deeper. This goes. We hope that happens. because then we have a reason to say to others, please start doing this too.
Yeah. So
The
you
goal,
can't have waiting lists for funerals. So, you'll have to come up with other venues. Yeah.
and the goal is less. I mean, this has a commercial element to it, but at the end of the day, and this is even the CEO and the board are on track of that. This is about changing the industry.
Yeah.
This is about doing what's right.
Yeah.
Because the nice thing, quote unquote, is that in the funeral business, there's no shortage of demand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
That's
very
true.
stable.
Yeah.
So whatever you do, you're going to make money.
Yeah.
So technically, this group doesn't need to do this.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't do it, they would make money for the next 20, 30 years without a problem.
Yeah.
So this is about wanting to do it. Why?
Yeah.
Because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
Actually, by doing this, they're making life a lot more difficult for themselves than not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is, and the hope is, that by creating one location on the planet, the first one,
Mm-hmm.
where everything goes as humans want,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that we won't achieve that probably, but that's what we're shooting for.
Yeah.
Hopefully creates a pull that there's somebody in France or Germany or I don't know where.
Yeah.
So like, I want myself some of that as well.
Yeah.
We're rebuilding or we refurbishing, and can we talk about the scripts and can we talk about how you do this?
Yeah.
And effectively that way start actually just making farewells more meaningful, which is what
transforming farewells basically is what you're doing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, our informal KPI in the team is we want to reduce complicated grief.
Yeah.
That's what we're shooting for.
Yeah.
By eliminating the needless suffering that we can address.
And suppose you have a group of people going to one of these different types of funerals. Is there any way that you would like to follow up with their experience? Would you like to kind of get some data on how this is for them?
That will eventually happen. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, right now it's all been based on scenarios, on storyboards, etc. So we're already getting feedback on that front.
Yeah.
Afterwards, it's definitely going to be some level of evaluation. How it gets done, we'll need to figure out, but I've got an amazing anthropologist, ethnographer on the team. So, I'm sure they can sort that out.
Yeah.
But the idea would be that like it becomes a living thing in which it's less about the script and more about the empowering the community actually of funeral directors and people who actually take care of funerals to kind of start creating experiences themselves, because the ideal meaningful experience is tailored to the individual. So we cannot come up with a standard script that serves everyone.
So there's no one playbook, but there are guidelines to creating an experience that is different than the ones we're used to.
Correct. The idea, I mean, the one playbook doesn't exist. There is one approach which can be taken. And what we're trying to do is we're basically want to create the stage, i.e. the crematorium, that is capable of dealing with any possible variation of that playbook, of that main approach, so to say. So if you wanna go out with a rave, we should be capable of doing that. If you want to go out with mantra singing, that's fine too.
Right.
You want to sit in a circle, you sit in a circle. You want to stand on your head, you stand on your head. It's like, how do we make that possible in a way that is, this is where the business side comes in, that's affordable, profitable, and scalable.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to say it's easy, but it's a lot easier to do for a single farewell. If you suddenly have to scale it to a couple of thousand, it gets very different.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think even being open to listening to individuals' preferences or ideas they may have had even before they died about how I would like this to be. Designing your own funeral is a course I've been to. Thinking about how to do this, like what would I like people to be able to share or do or show. and then being able to translate that in the space to accommodate that. Basically, that's a really beautiful thought.
It's going to be the biggest piece of work is going to be actually getting the farewell community to change their ways.
Yeah.
That's the real transformation.
Yeah.
In which, funnily enough, the course you mentioned is probably going to be part of that conversation at some point.
Wow. Yeah.
But it is about creating the freedom within that business model for people to start doing what's right.
Beautiful. I would also like to make the jump to your book, The Transformation Code, because maybe the way you are transforming funerals might have something to do with the code as well. I'm curious what relation there is.
It's, well, to summarize, the transformation code is basically something I worked on for a long time. I'll spare you the whole details, but what it comes down to is the transformation, real transformation, happens when three elements are in place. And the first element is a story that expands your sense of what is possible. Yeah, so it's like a bigger story than there is today, because you want to transform into something. Yeah. So that something has to be at least articulated, maybe not clear, but articulated. So you need that story. That story then needs to resonate with who you are at the moment that you hear it, because there's lots of wonderful stories out there, but they still don't transform you necessarily. I want to be fit, but none of the stories that the fitness centers tell actually resonate with me.
Yeah.
So does that mean they're a bad story? No, because there's lots of people that vibe with it, but it's just not my story. So you need that resonance, because if it's not there, then I'm not willing to go there.
Yeah.
And finally, there needs to be flow, which basically means that you make it as easy as possible to actually step into that transformation. Yeah. Because if it's very difficult, then I'm not going to do it again. We all know these situations where, I should eat more healthy. But I love this. I love this chicken, which is nice and greasy, and also it's just in the cupboard, so I'll just make that. Yeah,
like it's my easiest option.
It's the easiest option. So basically, story, resonance, and flow coming together. And here we've actually then said with the funerals and with the farewells, is that we've actually said, okay, what's the story we're telling that is different? That expands reality, and where that comes first, and this was we discovered this by accident actually, when we were doing interviews with people. I interviewed about 100 grievers personally myself, and we went back to a number of them, and I kind of showed them, like, this is what we came up with, and a lot of them liked it, and some had notes, etc. But the number one comment that came back was, am I allowed to do this? And I was like, yeah, it's your funeral, so, you can do whatever you want.
Where's the, you can't do this sign,
Yeah, but it's like, you just do this. And they were like, that's relief. And effectively what we were doing is we were telling a new story, that something new became possible. And that story then, and that was then the second element. We said, now this needs to resonate, because it resonates with a few people, but, does it resonate with enough people to make a difference? Which is where we did a whole bunch of research, qualitative research, deep diving into what humans really think about death and farewells and all that sort of stuff. Really heavy stuff. Had psychologists and anthropologists do the research, because, this got bit too real for regular market research.
And the way you question people and the way you hold the space is important.
Yeah, it's basically, and we had taboo protocols, which basically meant, like, it's like you can actually discuss taboos in a safe environment, and there was lots of tears and all that sort of thing. But then basically keep going back to that story we told, because version 1 was just like, ta-da, here's what we think. But by version 17, it had kind of evolved into 3 stories, which resonated with different types of people, different types of needs. And then basically so that then gave a story and resonance. But now we're still like, okay, but if we now want to do a 360 immersion of somebody who died and they loved to drive down Route 66, and we want to take people there into that memory, the space doesn't allow that. If we want to have a natural farewell, a return to nature, most funeral spaces don't allow that.
Yeah,
you got to go to a forest or whatever, but not everybody's into that.
And there's all sorts of rules and regulations around taking ashes or body to nature. Yeah,
exactly. So you can only do that much. So that's then where flow comes into play, which is a large part of the work, is very practically thinking through.
Yes.
So how do we make this as easy as possible?
Yeah.
And this is also where a lot of well-meaning initiatives die these days.
Yeah.
Sorry for the pun. Because somebody wants to, but then there's all this stuff you have to deal with at a time that you're highly emotional. And,
yes.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And effectively, that's where flow comes in the sense that what we're working on is how do we make that then as easy and intuitive as possible,
right?
So that people can see there's a different future possible. There's a different farewell.
Yeah.
One of those routes, they go like, yeah, that's me. That's where I want to go. And then we make it as easy as possible. And effectively, hopefully get to that transformation.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I find it really interesting how death, the farewell, the saying goodbye to life, actually informed your transformational work as well. Because when you talk about human thriving, it's about life producing life, right? And in a way, this is how do we do the death part? How do we close things in a way that is human, that is life-giving? So I think it's, I'm really grateful for how you shared your journey in this, and also how awe inspired you in this as well. And maybe even the experience of nothingness contributed actually to this thinking about.
Part of that. Yeah. It's all one, in the end, it's all one thing coming together.
Yeah. Nodes, lots of nodes that are connected. Yeah.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Is there anything else you would like to share with the listeners that has inspired you, or that you would like to pass on as something to think about, something to chew on?
I think the main thing for me is that when it comes to transformation, it's about letting go more than embracing new. What I mean by that is that embracing new stuff's fairly easy if it's exciting.
Yeah.
I want to do the next
some bling.
thing.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just something cool that you can do.
Yeah.
And even with, funerals, it's like, I show you those new, and I'm sure you're going to be like, yeah, that's the way it should be. But then it also means letting go of a lot of other stuff, which goes with the old future.
Yeah.
And actually, the thing I've been training myself on, I remind my clients of all the time. It's like, so what are we going to let disappear? What are we going to stop? Where we're going to end?
Yeah.
And I think this is maybe one thing which I've gradually thinking about more whenever I'm thinking about transformation. It's not just where we're going. It's also, what do we decide to leave behind? It could be baggage, but also could be good stuff.
Yeah.
Because everything comes with consequences. I know this sounds very philosophical. That's kind of where I'm in a philosophical day today. So
nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
Hope it makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And thank you so much for sharing that insight. I really hope listeners will now understand what transformation is, other than it being a complete turnover of your life. It can just be incremental, or it can be in a small way, but be pivotal anyway. It can be life-changing.
Exactly.
So thank you so much for this conversation, Alain.
Thank you for having me. Exactly.
And it's a wrap. Thank you very much for listening to the Orecast today. My name is Dorchester Koning. I'm the founder of O Academy, a center for professional and personal development through training outdoors and with art.
If you're interested to know more, look me up on oracademy.live.